Heem made a video saying your take on the periodic table is wrong. Okay, this is going to be a misunderstanding, right? Like, Heem is going to assume that what I'm saying is that there's no reason why the periodic table is organized the way that it is. But what my statement is that the periodic table is valuable not because it's correct, but because it's useful. And there are other ways of organizing the periodic table that could be equally correct, but not as useful, right? Heem's a chemistry professor, come on. But we're not talking chemistry, are we? We're talking linguistic and philosophical epistemology. It's actually, what I'm talking about has nothing to do with chemistry. The chemistry is just the thing being pointed at. It's about definitions. Oh, let me just listen for 2 seconds. Hold on. That's fine, Flying Baguette. Labeling your political ideology is overrated. What matters is the positions. People seem to be taking different understandings of arbitrary. You mean the 1B definition, right? I think I made this clear when I was having the conversation, but so when I say arbitrary, 1A is existing or coming out seemingly at random or by chance as a capricious or unreasonable act of will. That is not the definition I mean. Based on or determined by individual preference or convenience or utility, rather than by necessity or the intrinsic nature of something. That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean by arbitrary. It fits the definition just fine. Let me just listen for 1 second, just to make sure. I've said this before about, like...
Wait, what was the example he was trying to compare this to? Why reach this deep in... 2, 3, what is it, 8? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Identified element that just existed. This is literally if a tree falls in a forest and it doesn't make a sound. Vaush. I think he means it could be any like this. I've never seen these ones. I mean, listen, I guess, but like what, you're gonna bend it into a circle? Like, okay, who cares?
Wait, what do you mean? Wait, that's the point. These alternative periodic tables are just as correct as the standard periodic table. We just don't think they're as useful, which is why we don't use them. But yeah, that's the point. Yeah, like, we could. That's the point that I'm making.
Does that change that, like, depending on whatever format you want to choose, everything will fill in as is?
If you no, but I'm talking about the format. No, this is people always mix this up. The things contained within a category may be facts of the world, but that doesn't mean the category itself is a fact of the world, you know? The atomic weight of an atom is a fact of the world, but whether we choose to group them with other things based on their atomic weight or based on other things is our choice, you know?
I'm choosing a format where the noble gases start at the top like this, then you can say, okay, then it's going to be helium, then it's going to be neon, then it's going to be argon, so on and so forth. What I'm saying is, like, the format can be arbitrary, but the placement is
wait, you
have to play by the rules, so it's not arbitrary.
Wait, but
if it's going to have any sense, I don't know if that makes sense.
And our ruins fade.
If you wanted to, you could make a periodic table where the what you're actually grouping them by is whether or not that element is a liquid, a gas, or a solid at room temperature. You could do that, right? Like, you could have like helium, you could have like helium and hydrogen and stuff, and it's like, oh, well, these are the gases, and then you could have the ones that are liquid, and then you could have the ones that are solid at room temp, and you could do that, and that would be a correct periodic table. That would be, like, objectively correct, as long as you set the pressure and the room temperature, and that would be objectively correct. But the reason you wouldn't use that was because it's not as useful, not because it's not correct. The correctness of a definition isn't what we select definitions for. No, you couldn't. Case in point, is iodine a liquid or a gas at standard temp and pressure? What? You absolutely could. The larger issue is most people think arbitrary means random. Yeah, but in that conversation, I make it really clear what I mean, right? It's not like I just say, yeah, this is all arbitrary and dip, you know? Like, I explain what I mean when I say that.
To dust, and 1 million years from now aliens come to Earth and they find, like, our rubble, and all of this shit is meaningless to them. They have absolutely no understanding what anything they're looking at means. There's no clue, like, because it's so damaged. Like, they have no idea. Their technology is way beyond ours was back when we died off, like, whatever. Okay, like, the way they would group and categorize things from our culture is not the way we would group and categorize things. Like, I would group and categorize stuff based on its usefulness to me. Water bottle helps me drink when I'm not near the sink. Game controller helps me lose an Elden Ring. This berserk Shirka and Guts clock is cool and I like looking at it. You know, a chicken is a chicken. Like that's what all this means to that, like to me, right? But to them, like they wouldn't have the same associated meanings. They might group things based on elemental composition or based on color, you know? Like they might look through these ruins, see nothing but aesthetic value because nothing here is practically useful. And they might just collect things based on texture or color, you know? Like
I see what you're saying, Heem. Good explanation. You look so cute, like a burrito. Listen, that's what I'm going on now. My new arc is just being cute and
Just give me a sec.
convincing you through cuteness. That's it. My arguments are irrelevant.
Why does he have a blanket? Because he's comfy.
That's the thing. And they wouldn't be wrong to do so. It's just like the usefulness relative to them. Does that make sense? Do people get what I'm talking about? Yeah, but on the
The thing with the I don't know.
elements grouped the same or chemically identical. No, you don't understand. This is what I mean. You're in the brain prison right now, which really bothers me. The only reason you think they're identical is because we're looking at characteristics useful to us. To a person who's only looking at color, this lotion bottle and this remote have characteristics that are identical because they both reflect white. You're projecting. They're similar, but the similarities are something that we determine, you know? Or to put it another way, imagine meeting a bunch of different alien.
He's pulling his beard a lot. I know he is. I feel like at his level of beard, I used to do it too, but now my beard's like
habit.
past that level of awkwardness. I don't pull on it as much.
Races. Do you think all of the different alien races would all arrange the periodic table in the same way as us? I think that if you believe that, you're very...
The thing is, they might not have it the exact same, but again, if whether or not they do it by the number of proton, the number, like if you think about it a little bit, you're gonna reach this conclusion that this is the most logical way to present.
No, the brain prison. It's not about whether or not it serves the most utility. It's just whether or not like you could go backwards with atomic weight if you wanted, starting from the highest going to the lowest. Like it doesn't, it's like those elements are arbitrary. It's just how we categorize things. It's just what we're taught. It's just what we do, you know? There could be other cultures that, like, yeah, you could purposely use something less efficient. Well, you could, even if you use something less efficient, it would still be as true, right? Like a periodic table where everything is collected just based on atomic weight with no differentiation or categorization based on similar properties like the noble gases or whatever, that would be objectively correct, like universally, right? But, you know?
Like, yeah, I could do alphabetical order, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, you could live here, look, here's my periodic table. Here, check it out.
Yeah, you could do that though.
See, because we can put it in alphabet.
This is true. Like, this is objectively correct. This is as correct of a periodic table as the one most people use or see on like chemistry classroom walls. It's just less useful.
Alphabetical order, the periodic table is meaningless. I don't know, bro.
Very arrogant. They might have the same understanding.
Hey,
of
lady
elements as
sarcasm.
us, but the idea that they would...
Does it matter how the periodic table is arranged? Yes, it does. Because the way it's currently arranged tells you so much. It gives you so many clues and hints as to how to treat the materials that are so accurate that it blows your mind. That's why it's such a beautiful, incredible thing. And the fact that we were able to identify, that we were able to say, okay, there's another element here that we've never seen, but it's going to have this many neutrons, this many protons, and then we found it, and it existed. That tells you how beautifully it's arranged. Like, yeah, of course you can do it by alphabetical order, but what is that? It literally tells you which element.
Then how did Mendeleev predict the existence of multiple elements hundreds of years before they were discovered? What? What does that have to do with the periodic table? You still don't understand. You're conflating the facts of the world contained within the categorization and the categorization itself.
Elements are going to match with other elements, or which ones are going to be reactive or non-reactive, like...
The periodic table right now. To anyone who said we would arrange it in the same way, you're already wrong.
Oh my god, you cannot compare the periodic table of elements or the classification of, even if you say the table, you can do different styles. You cannot fucking say that the way we break down atoms to differentiate helium from hydrogen to neon to carbon, these things are fundamental.
We're not talking about those things. We're talking about how we categorize them.
This is not arbitrary at all. I don't understand.
You're already wrong within human culture. Within our own culture.
What do you mean a correction on the bottom of the page?
Dad, even yesterday, you were telling me I'd stop being an Hasanabi head to be a king head. Guess what?
What? What happened to the rest of it?
Oh my god, please, Vaush, you don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm objectively correct in this respect. There might not be an objectively optimal way of arranging the periodic table, but I am objectively correct here. There's not really much room for arguing. It's just, I don't know. I feel like I explained it just fine. I don't know why.
Biases and perceived needs of the people who arrange them. We might argue that some of them are more useful than others by metal classification, by periodic table structure.
Watch me like, yo, hang on 1 second. You guys are gonna watch this. All right, this is the periodic table. Vaush is like, see? You can have, it's arbitrary. It's arbitrary. Who says that it has to
That's true. Yeah.
be classified the way that it is? It's completely arbitrary. There is no right or wrong. You cucks. See, there's many, many different ways to outlay the periodic table. Get wrecked. Mendeleev spent 20 years arranging it. Too bad, he was a cock. Beta. New ordering of elements could help find new materials with promising results. Bro, look, people are just desperate. Pencil, crayons, and shit.
Yeah, it's like how the alphabet doesn't need to be in that order, right? Like, you know how it goes A, B, C, D? Like, it doesn't have to be that, like, at all. There's literally no reason why that is. It could be any... The alphabet could be in any order. That is completely arbitrary. It could be other... Yeah.
Get out of here with this potato. Let me know when it happens, okay? Let me know when you can go from... when you find an element that goes from 4 neutrons to 5...
Why is he conflating the facts of the world with the categorization of those facts of the world? Somebody else in chat pointed this out. I think this is a really good argument. Okay, hold on. Maps are not the territory, right? That's an example right there. Okay, so which map of Los Angeles is correct? There can only be one. We're talking about an objective reality here, after all. We're talking about the objective reality of the topography of Los Angeles. So only one of these can be correct. Oh, this is an old one. Oh, it's also super low res, Lamau. Is there a not low res version? There we go. Like, which of these is correct? Like, in all these cases, what we're doing is we're using arbitrary human symbology to represent a fact of the world. The fact of the world is the topography and layout of Los Angeles. Where the pipes are laid, where the buildings are, where the streets are, that's a fact of the world. It can be measured empirically. But how we decide to represent that on a map is a matter of utility, what we find most useful. There are satellite maps, there are topographical maps, there are elevation maps, there are county maps, there are street maps, there are sewer maps, and none of them are wrong. They're just different ways of representing the same information, and which is best for us is determined by utility, right? Does that make sense? There are a billion maps of LA that go back like a long time too. There are heat maps. Here's a map of Los Angeles hotels. I mean, I don't know. I'm convinced the people who don't get this are trolling. It piss me off. Usually when a bunch of people in like the Twitch politics space don't get an obvious thing I'm saying, it's because Destiny made a big issue of it and deliberately misunderstood it. And like that means the chatters in the adjacent communities like freak out about it too. And it's like a ripple effect, you know? You should talk to him. If I talked to him for like 3 seconds, he would agree with me on this. That's it. It's just a kind of projected uncharitability. There's no way to disagree with me on this and be correct. There isn't room for argument here. The IQ suppression field. God. Another example is scales in European music theory versus Indian music theory. They organize them differently. Yeah, there's a lot of shit. So much stuff that we take for granted is like constructed, you know? I think that's cool. Yeah, that's a good example, I think. I don't know much about music theory, though.